Hello there, my beautiful Scorpio signs. It's Rachel with Dark Knight Coaching. Today's video is all about you, Scorpio. This reading is going to be a little bit of a whirlwind, so make sure you settle in. There's a lot about love, so if you're here about love, then this message is for you. I'm not thinking it's like there's some good and some bad when it comes to love. When I meditate on your cards, when I'm doing my shuffling and all that stuff, Scorpio, I tap in through music. So I listened to a song called Oil and Water by Rachael that just kind of popped up, and it's a solid song. So if you're interested, I would go check out those lyrics because there's a lot of relevant lines that also tie to your reading. But I do feel like for a lot of you that aren't here for love, this has to do with going through a dark night of the soul. This has to do with an ego death, but it could be because of a relationship that you lost or something along those lines, because there's I had the death card that came out in your past energy, and sometimes that symbolizes, when we do lose a loved one or a family member, a friend, or a partner. It doesn't have to be like physical death. It could just be, they're dead to us, or they're just gone and out of our lives, or ripped away in some form or another, and that can cause an ego death, because it's essentially heartbreak, and heartbreak is death in a way. It's just a different form of it. And when you go through heartbreak or heartbreaking situations, it can break you from the inside out, but that's also how the light gets let in. So that is, for some of you, you're definitely going through a dark night of the soul period. And there's even the Tower came out, but you're feeling really trapped or blocked, or you're just having this loss of sense of self, this loss of purpose, this loss of drive. It's kind of all over the board here, but like the whole collective message is generally like you just feel a bit out of sorts, like you don't know what to do, which way is up, and you're having a hard time seeing like a silver lining in anything. Now, the archetype card that came out for you, Scorpio, was the Shadow. This is really Spirit really wants you to tap into like your darker side. So when I'm still going through my dark night of the soul, it just like it ebbs and flows, but I'm on the upper cusp of getting out of it basically. But when you go through a dark night of the soul, you have to have the ability to ride the wave of your emotions, but you're also like falling into the cusp of darkness. That's basically what it is. So think of it literally as, or I guess figuratively, as a roller coaster. So you're having these lull periods where you're dipping into the shadow, and then you're having these high periods where you're coming back into your like conscious state. So the shadow is like our subconscious reasoning essentially, or our subconscious mind, and then our light side is the things that we let come to the surface. So the shadow can also be tied to a lot of our unresolved traumas, and traumas are held in our memory. It's held in our energetic body. It's held in our physical body. You might have heard of like somatic healing. That's when you're trying to release traumas through your physical body, and there are different ways you can do that. So if you've never looked into flame gazing, that's a nice way to kind of help yourself release some old wounds or old past patterns, triggers, those sorts of things. There's also the Wim Hof method, which is mostly focused on a breath work type of thing. That can be a great way to release some trauma from your body as well. There's also Reiki. I highly recommend Reiki because it helps you really align your chakras, which are your energy centers. And if you don't know what a chakra is and you want to learn more, I have a bunch of videos posted on this channel, so just go find the list entitled chakras, and I have it kind of broken down into each specific target area for you to work on. But I do feel like at this time you're blocked because of your shadow, and maybe you're just not wanting to go within, which is understandable, especially if you felt like you've been through the ringer and you're just kind of tired. You might not be ready yet to tackle that big of a hill essentially. So just take your time. Don't be too hard on yourself, Scorpio, but make sure that you are being honest with yourself, because sometimes that's hard to do when we get into these modes of like self-pity and wallowing, like, why is this happening to me, poor me. And I totally understand, like, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, and sometimes that's a very hard concept to grasp. So if you can find the lesson or the blessing in a situation, that's going to lift you up out of, this martyr victim mode, and it's going to get you into a higher vibration and higher state. And that's what spirit wants you to do, because the card that came out for you was perception for your chakra, and this is tied to your heart chakra, which is all about love and heart space. And that is about how you see things. And if you have an attitude of gratitude, that's going to pay off for a lot longer than it will if you're in this like fear state and hate mode. And sometimes that's very hard to do when life throws you lots of curveballs over and over again, and you feel like you got sand in your eyes because of all of the garbage that came your way. But spirit really wants you to focus on your true purpose and how you can move forward, because the purpose card came out here in the Power of Love deck. Now this is tied to, it says, you possess the determination and dedication to consciously demonstrate love. But this is tied to self-love, I feel like, a lot, because when we get into these shadow aspects, or when we end a relationship, a lot of the times we might say, oh, that person was just a terrible person. But we don't hold ourselves accountable for choosing them, for letting them go on so long, for letting them treat us a certain way for so long. Like, that's where our accountability comes into play. And then we have to do the shadow work. We have to dig in and understand, why did I let myself stay there? Why did I not leave, when I knew? And sometimes, we can get hard. We can be hard on ourselves for not leaving when we could have left earlier or should have left earlier, but we weren't ready. And when you're ready, you're going to go. So now the next card I have for you is this is from my Moon Oracle deck. It says, whatever I choose to believe becomes true to me. So if you feel like you're not worthy of love, if you feel like you don't deserve love, that's what you're going to get. If you feel like love's only complicated and it's just going to make your life worse, then you're probably going to get that as well. That's why spirit really wants you to shift your perception and forgive yourself and forgive the other person, which may not be easy, or I'm not saying forget, I'm saying forgive. And you can only find forgiveness through understanding. And it begins at a core level, Scorpio, when, all of us have trauma in our lives. Even the worst of people, they usually have a trauma that's pretty bad. And that's what makes them a not so nice person. Now, does that excuse them from changing or having a choice to become better? No, it doesn't. But are they able to, or are they willing to go in and do the shadow work and to come out on the other side as more attuned with themselves and more aware of what they've chosen to do and why? Not always. So you'll have the choice to make, Scorpio, if you're ready to do that. If you're not, it's totally up to you. There's no judgment here coming from me. Like, everyone will do things in the proper timing, and that may not be in this lifetime, but it could be. It's a choice that's up to you. Now, the I Ching card that I have for you, Scorpio, is blocked. This one is about what can you do when nothing's working, basically. So it says, nothing moves or grows, communication doesn't happen, and everything is negated and blocked. Perhaps others sabotage your progress or have a negative influence, or have no empathy. Even your brightest ideal and best efforts result with nothing. So instead, focus on smaller details of your immediate reality. And who are you when no one is noticing? So again, I feel like you might be feeling like this lack of sense of self, this lack of purpose. Spirit really wants you to dive in deep and do things by the book. So by the book came out, which is like baby steps. That's what that means to me. And chop wood, that card is, this card, chop wood, is chop wood, carry water. It's do the work, do the inner work, do the shadow work, do it in little increments. If that's all you can do today, like, don't be hard on yourself. You're not gonna, you have built these walls around you. You have this trauma that you've held probably for your whole lifetime. And that doesn't usually come crumbling down in one fell swoop. It's not very like a clean break usually when it comes to ending these cycles and these patterns. And, unbuilding something can almost take as long as the building of something. So I think I was watching a TikTok yesterday or something. It said like trauma in your brain, rewiring your brain, that traumatic expectation can take up to 2 years if you're very consistent with the healing. So don't get down on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, because, it takes a long time to undo what's been done for so long to you. And there is a purpose to the pain. There is a purpose to everything that's happened, even though you may not see it in this small moment. It is there for longevity, Scorpio. And I do feel like you will be seeing the fruits of your labor in time, and it's divine timing, and it's after you've done the healing and the shadow work, and you're releasing and you're moving forward. But I do feel like right now Spirit is asking you to choose what direction it is you want to go, because that's your current energy here with the Two of Swords, and that's all about making a choice and kind of feeling like guarded, like you're not sure which way to go. But the promising part is in your future card. This is the Four of Wands. This is celebration. This is engagement. This is marriage. This is wedding. And maybe it's like you're committing to yourself, okay? You don't have to commit to a person. But if you want to commit to a person, in your subconscious energy, you have the Page of Cups, which I was like, ooh, what's this about? So I pulled a couple clarifiers here, Scorpio, because Page of Cups is a small offer of love. It also is very symbolic to me of the dating apps, which, you know, if you've ever seen a man with a fish on a dating app, then you know what I'm talking about. And that always makes me chuckle because it's so silly. But the next card I pulled was the Tower. So if you have been if you've been dabbling in love and you're like trying to throw yourself into something or someone else, I have the Knight of Swords. I feel like this is a case of the lusties. So if you're looking to solve your problem by going and finding someone new, I don't think that's going to do it for you, Scorpio. You're welcome to try. It looks like it'll probably be a lot of fun, but it's going to be like a fizzle and a burn situation, like I want to say quick bang, but like you want a slow burn is what I'm going for here, Scorpio. If you want a love that's going to last, it has to be built on friendship, and it has to be built on it just has to have a solid foundation. There's a lot of things that it needs to be built on, but it's whatever this is that you're thinking about doing here. I feel like it's dating app related. I don't think it's going to be a good idea personally, but you know, do whatever you want. Now, the last card I have for you, Scorpio, is the Triquetra. This one is a lovely card to have, especially when you have this death card. Sorry, my computer was freezing. This one is all about the death, life, and rebirth that occurs when you're going through a dark night of the soul. So during the dark night of the soul, this is also, I'm trying not to make this too religious, but the triquetra is a Celtic symbol of infinity, but it is also very much closely related to something called a triskelon, which is an ancient Egyptian symbol, which looks very similar, and is also very much tied to the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. And you're like, how does this tie in? It's life, death, and rebirth. That's basically the basis of most theological religions, or even, you know, if you go back to Celtic times, that's basically what the Triquetra symbolizes here. It's life, death, rebirth, which is Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And then the Triquetra, this one says, the energy of movement inspires creations in your life within you, and encourage and delight the senses into life movement. So when you were in your old self, that was your current life. Now when you have an ego death, that is the death, and then you have this opportunity for rebirth. That is the cycle of a dark night of the soul experience. It isn't a quick cycle, typically. Sometimes you can go through an ego death. That's your tower moment. It shifts your whole mindset, and it changes you on a fundamental level. That's sometimes what we need to have to happen to hit this like rock bottom in order to grow and move forward. It's kind of like the lotus in the mud. So you have to kind of work your way out of the mud to become the beautiful lotus flower, and that's what's happening for you. It's just taking longer than you thought, or it's just harder than you expected, and that is normal. That's a normal energy. So I don't want you to feel like you're totally out of sorts here, Scorpio. You're right where you're meant to be. It's just uncomfortable, and that is the purpose, because you can't have change without something being uncomfortable, because it's not really true change unless it makes you feel strange because you've never experienced it before. And that's the going into the void, that's going into the unknown, that's going into the shadow, because a lot of us don't ever go there, and we live our lives on this like surface level, like everything's fine and it's just monotony, and you know, then you're like trapped in the matrix, and then once you have this ego death, you're broken free from the matrix, and you can't really unsee what you've seen. And that can be a double-edged sword sometimes, because sometimes, at least for myself, when I find myself in the awakening mode, I'm just like, oh, why? Like, why can't I just be normal? Why couldn't I just like be content with the monotony and the drudgery of like everyday life as a bot, basically? So sometimes that's a double-edged sword, but it's about how you perceive things to be, and that's the key here. So if you're having a really hard time, Scorpio, I highly recommend gratitude journals. That can be a great way just to write a couple things down a day that are good, that happened to you, that was nice. And it doesn't have to be like tangible things, like monetary things. It could just be like, I'm happy I woke up today and I can breathe fresh air in my lungs. I'm happy I woke up and I heard the birds chirping, or I went to bed last night and the crickets were, you know, doing their thing and I could hear them, and it was just a lovely way to end the evening. It can be simple. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. And it's those little tiny things, it's those little baby steps towards happiness that's going to lead you to a solid foundation, and it's going to align you to your highest best self, so then you can draw in somebody who's on your same level. Because I feel like for a lot of you Scorpios, you've had a history of being with people who they didn't understand you. You weren't vibrating at the same level. They never saw you, and it's just a lack of love on their part, and they missed out. So anyways, that's what I have for you, Scorpio. Hopefully this video helped. If it did, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps my channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in a one-on-one coaching session, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're interested in a tarot reading or a wisdom oracle reading, I can do that as well. But that's what I have for you, and I will see you next time.